Never mind. Hey, I've spoken for absolutely loads already this morning, so I tried to keep it short, but whenever I try, it always goes wrong. Hey, last week, Sian delivered an amazing message, and she goes at the beginning of her preach, she goes, this isn't how I usually preach. And if you were here, usually she's quite methodical. She goes through the scriptures, boom, 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 and it's amazing. And usually when I preach, I just ramble on about anything, and then at the end, I go into my prayer voice, and I hope that God shows up. Today, I'm going to try and do what Sian usually does, and I'm going to take us through a little bit of a passage in the Bible and try to bring some points out of that. And if you've got your Bibles, hey, why don't you follow along with me? It might be on your phone, and if you've not got the Bible on your phone, I'd encourage you to download the Bible on your phone, unless you've got a Nokia 3310, in which case put Snake away. But we're going to look in the book of Matthew and at chapter 15 today as we go through this passage together. I want to talk about faith today. I'm excited about all that God is doing already in this place, and I'm excited about what God is going to be doing through us, in us. I know that some of the plans that God has given us, and we're going to be sharing those in a few weeks' time, but I know that sometimes to get from here to here, we have to raise our faith level up. And maybe in your life right now, you see yourself here with your whatever's going on in your life. You say, this is kind of where I am, but God, I want to be over there. I want to be further on in my relationship with you. I want to be able to understand what that guy's even on about in church. I want to be able to feel your presence, God, or maybe like we've just been praying and we've just been giving to God. God, I need this miracle. I need this breakthrough. I need you to break the chains of addiction. I need this provision, God. I need you to change this attitude that I've got, whatever it is. But maybe you're sat here and you're like, I don't know how to get to there. That's beyond me because, you don't know my life, you don't know my background, you don't know my history, and I can't get there. And today, I want to talk about how to step up our faith so that actually we can be over here. And, we use the word faith in church quite a lot, and it can become this like daunting, scary thing where like, I've not got enough faith. I've not got enough faith. I remember praying for someone once, and I probably said the worst, stupidest thing ever in the world, because he's like, oh, God. No, he said, Marcus, not God. I'm not God. Nowhere near. Says, Marcus, I want more faith. I said, great, let's pray for you. And I said, by faith, receive faith. Well, if someone's not got faith, how are they going to receive faith by faith? I was like, stupid boy. But today, faith actually is something that we do every day. This morning, you're sat on those chairs, and what you are doing is you have put faith in those legs. If you're sat on the chairs at the back around the tables, you require more faith than if you're sat at the front on these chairs. We've got faith in our amazing sound team that they're not going to turn the mic off halfway through, although I have just noticed the... You had faith in the other drivers on the road today. You had faith maybe if someone else drove you to church this morning. Or maybe you didn't have faith and you were sat there with your eyes closed, gripping on to the seat. But hey, we put faith in things every day. And we put faith in the legs of our chairs. And we put faith in places maybe like the sound team where we shouldn't put our faith. But sometimes we struggle to put our faith in God because we're like, God, I can't see the way, I can't see it. But actually, when has God ever let us down? And sometimes the person that we should have the most faith in is the person that we have the least faith in. And we worry too much about it. But actually, hopefully, as we go through this and as God comes, our faith levels will go up, because I believe where God is taking us as individuals and also as a church, our faith levels are going to go up. Anyway, turn with me, Matthew chapter 15. We're going to start at verse 21. That's it, and I really hope you are now following along or taking notes and not playing Snake. I think it'll come up on the screens as well. I'm reading from the NIV, I think, this morning. Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 says, leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman came from that vicinity, and she came to him crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." Jesus did not answer a word, so his disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away, for she keeps crying out after us." He answered, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel." The woman came and knelt before him. "Lord, help me," she said. He replied, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." "Yes, it is, Lord," she said. "Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." And her daughter was healed at that very moment. And Jesus left there and went along the Sea of Galilee. Then he went up on a mountainside and sat down. God, I thank you for your Bible. I thank you for your word, even when there's words in it that we never expected you to hear. And I pray that you'd speak to us this morning. Amen. I never, ever thought I'd preach from this passage because, to be honest, I think it's weird. Like, if you've heard this passage before, you're like, "Jesus, what on earth are you doing? You actually call this woman a dog." Now, usually we say, okay, whatever Jesus does, we can do. Or we say, he's a great example. And I'm like, is this the exception to the rule? Because if I call a woman a dog this morning, you're probably not going to be very happy with me. And I've always got distracted, and I've always thought, I'm not going to preach on this passage ever in my life because it's a little bit weird and it's a little bit hard. But actually, I believe today that it is the right thing to do, and hopefully God will speak to some people in this place. Let's go through this passage one by one, because today we're going to look at faith that crosses a line, actually how we can cross the line. Again, usually I say to my children, do not cross that line. They give me this look, they're going to do it anyway. I'm like, don't cross it. But today our faith, I believe, is going to go up, and we're going to cross that line that has always held us back from getting from here to here. Today, our faith is going to cross that line. So verse 21, it says, "Leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon." So Jesus had been traveling about everywhere. If we read the few chapters before this, he'd been here, they'd been here, there, and he'd just been in Gennesaret. And now he was going to Tyre and Sidon. He'd kind of been crossing the Jordan, the river, backwards and forwards. He's moves, and everywhere that Jesus is going, people are getting healed. People are following him. Lives are being changed. But now it says here, he's going to the region of Tyre and Sidon. Now we can just read that. We can say, oh, that's nice. It's great that Jesus was going there. But actually, it wasn't great that Jesus was going to this place, Tyre and Sidon, because Tyre and Sidon was not a place for the Jewish people. It wasn't a nice place. It wasn't like the places that he had just been in. It was not the easiest place to go to. He knew that as he went to this place, it wasn't people that were going to welcome him with arms wide open, because they weren't Jewish people. And the Jewish people didn't even accept him as the Messiah. They didn't even accept him as to who he was. And so there's no way that these Canaanites, these people that disagreed with the Jews, they were not going to accept him. So Jesus, though, he says, we're going to Tyre and Sidon. Hey, maybe Jesus sometimes calls us to places that we don't feel comfortable going to, that we don't want to go to. But Jesus himself, he sets that example when he says, go into the world, make disciples. Hey, Jesus himself went into the world to make disciples. And he goes to this place. He knows he's going to face resistance. He knows he's going to face some hard times there, but he goes. He knew the people weren't going to appreciate him, but he went anyway. Maybe God is calling us into places where people won't appreciate us, where when we leave, we won't get a massive round of applause, or people won't say, hey, that was amazing, thank you so much for coming. Or as you speak life into places, hey, maybe they don't appreciate it, but it doesn't mean that Jesus has not called you there, or that you're not meant to go. And so Jesus, he withdraws to this region of Tyre and Sidon. In fact, earlier on in the book of Matthew, in Matthew chapter 11, Jesus had said, he basically used Tyre and Sidon as the worst example of places that he could think of. He says it will be better for the people of Tyre and Sidon. So it's the worst place that he could think of. It's not a great place where he was going to. We're going to get better, don't worry. But Jesus loved this place anyway. Even though it was hard, even though he wasn't going to get the reaction that maybe he could have got in other places, he went. Because why? Because God so loved the world. God loved that place. And maybe today you find yourself in a place where you're like, oh, maybe I'm in a Tyre and Sidon. God couldn't love me. He wouldn't cross that line to get to me today. Because of my background, because of the way I've lived, because of this, because of that, because of this, you're like, God won't cross that line. Hey, but God so loved the world. God did not just so love the good people. God did not just so love those that have been a Christian for 30 years. God did not just love those people that seem to get everything right in their life. But God loved the world. And as I look around the world today, I see broken people, I see hurting people, I see people at war, I see people in disagreement, I see people that are treating others badly. I see people that are caught in massive messes in their lives. I see people that just are not getting things right. And it says in my Bible, for God so loved the world. Jesus loved that place enough to go. It was a curse over Tyre and Sidon. It had been cursed by the prophets in the Old Testament. That whole region had been cursed. But hey, today Jesus was going to change that curse. And today, maybe if you feel like you're in a place of Tyre and Sidon, Jesus is changing that curse over your life. Maybe you're in a place where you've rejected Christ. Hey, well, maybe today that'll change as well. Because Jesus is coming. That's verse 21. Let's move on to verse 22 because we need to finish in a minute. A Canaanite woman came from that vicinity and she cries out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon possessed. Notice that the woman had to come out to Jesus. Sometimes we sit here and we say, God, come to me. God, come to me. But it says here, the woman came out from that area and went to Jesus. She used her legs. She got out, and actually she had to leave probably quite a dramatic and a place which was not very easy to leave. It says, my daughter, she's demon possessed. And as far as we know, this woman leaves her daughter at home alone to go and find Jesus. She could have said, Jesus, you need to come to me. But actually, she chased Jesus down. And more than that, this Canaanite woman, going to this Jewish man, she would have faced ridicule by her peers. People would have outcast her for this decision. But she knew that this was her chance of breakthrough. This was her chance for her daughter to be made well again. The thing that she wanted most was greater than the things that she might be outcast for. Do we know what we really want? Her upbringing would have told her not to go. Her education would have said, don't go to this man. And it would have told her as well, he is not for you. Everything in her life was saying, don't go. But this woman left the area. She got up and she went. We might need to move for that breakthrough. If we want to get from here to here, it's going to involve our legs moving. It's going to involve those steps. We're just going to say, God, I'm going to chase down what you have for me. I'm not just going to sit here and wait, but I'm going to chase it down. I'm going to be active. We're going to cross a line today, just like that woman did. Because faith will move us. Faith moves us. Religion will keep you still, but faith will move you. It will move you to touch Jesus' cloak as he's walking along in that crowd. It will move you to climb a tree to see Jesus. It will move you to gather loads of jars so that God can fill them up with oil. It will move you to leave the leper's camp to go and find your healing. Faith will move us, and it will help us cross that line. But Jesus doesn't answer a word. It says this, verse 23, Jesus did not answer a word. He was silent. So his disciples came to him and urged him, send her away, for she keeps crying out after us. And again, this woman, she had to cross over those voices of the disciples who were saying, send her away. Don't let her bother us. And maybe there's people in your life, those voices that you need to cross over. Saying, you know what, I'm not going to listen to those voices that are trying to keep me out of the freedom that God has for me. I'm going to cross over the line. But maybe the biggest line that this woman had to cross was that silent. You know, if you ever get into an argument, not that me and my wife would ever argue, because obviously we are perfect. But sometimes I would rather have a shouting match. My neighbours don't prefer that, but than the silent treatment. Is anyone else with me? The silence. That's the worst. No one wants just that look. And no words to be spoken. But we read that Jesus stays silent. And what's worse is Jesus, the one person that could fix every issue, sits there in silence. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, maybe at work or something like that, and you know that someone holds the answer. You know that they saw what happened, but they just sit there in silence. And Jesus is silent. I'm this makes no sense. Jesus, why are you silent? Why don't you speak? And maybe in your life, God seems a little bit silent. Maybe you've looked around this morning and you've seen these people with arms up in the air and they're and you think, oh, well, God is surely speaking to them. And you sit there and you're why does it seem that God is silent in my life? And maybe that silence is something that we need to cross today. You cross over the silence. One of the places me and my wife never argue in is the car. When we're going somewhere we've never gone. And I've got it on me, well, not sat-nav, because we don't use sat-navs anymore, do we? Your Google or whatever it is. And it's saying go this direction. And maybe the phone's been silent for a little while, but it's still it's not said anything. So I'm going in this direction. My wife, she does not trust my phone, even though we have the same phone. And so we're going on this journey and the phone's been silent. She goes, are we going the right way, Marcus? I'm I think we're going the right way. This is the way it told me to go. She goes, yeah, but it's not spoken in a while. Are you sure we're going the right way? I said, well, I think we're going the right way. She goes, let me check. She gets out her phone. She puts in the directions again. She goes, let me just check because your phone's been silent for a while. Hey, maybe God's been silent for a while, but that doesn't mean you're going in the wrong direction. God will speak. God will speak. But will you cross that silence? But eventually he answers. And you think, oh yes, Jesus is going to speak. Finally the answers are going to come. But what does he say? I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. So again, this woman, she wasn't a Jew. She wasn't one of God's chosen people. And Jesus is saying, hey, you're not Jewish. You're a Canaanite. I was sent for the Jews. Your background, your upbringing, the people that you were born to, the place that you were born in, tells you that you're not eligible for this. And it sounds really harsh, doesn't it? And that's why I've never preached from this passage before, because I'm like, this is too harsh. But it was true. The fact was, Jesus was sent to be the Messiah. This woman was not a Jewish woman. She didn't have the birthright that the Jewish people had. And I think, like, God, what is that all about? That this woman is not eligible. And as I was looking into it, and as I was thinking about it, you know what? We're not eligible. We're not right. Because we've messed up. We've sinned. We go wrong. And you know what? When that sin comes and God is perfect and we're not perfect, it cuts us off from God. And just like this woman was not eligible, the reality is I'm not eligible. Because I've messed up. Because I've made mistakes. I've sinned too much. I've done too much wrong. I am not good enough to encounter God. And no matter how hard I try, and no matter what I do, no matter, no matter how long I pray for in the morning, no matter even if I speak positive words and I don't get angry, I'm not enough. I'm not eligible. Just like this woman. But then the woman came down. She knelt before him. And she says, Lord, help me. Lord, help me. And for the second time in the passage, she calls him Lord. And as she kneels down, you know what? She does two things. She acknowledges who he is. He acknowledges who he is. That he is God, that he is the Messiah, that he is the one that can make it possible. But as she kneels down and as she calls him Lord, she's acknowledging who she isn't. She's saying, you know what, you are Lord and I'm not Lord. I'm not eligible. I'm not good enough. I've made mistakes. And I can't do this. I can't cross the line from here to here. I can't get the healing for my daughter that I need. I can't break this addiction. I can't break these problems and these chains over my life. I can't get the healing to cancer that I need because I'm not the Lord. But you are God. She calls him Lord. You are the one that can do it. Some versions of the Bible will say, Lord, have mercy on me. The NIV, Lord, help me. I don't deserve it, but I need your help. And you think, oh, that's a good line. But yet Jesus goes even further. And he says, it's not right for me to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. And I can't believe that he calls her a dog. It's shocking. And I always get distracted by that line. Where he calls her a dog, and that's it. My mind's like gone. My mind's gone on it. And the reality was, she wasn't an actual dog, but she wasn't a child. She wasn't a child because she wasn't Jewish. And so when he calls her a dog, he's saying, you're not a child. You don't, this bread isn't for you. You're not covered by the covenant. That covenant that we talked a little bit about this morning as we were having communion. That way for sins to be taken. You're not covered by that because you're not Jewish. And I've always thought about that dog line, and I've missed the bit before where it says, it's not right to take the children's bread. And because I've been so distracted by the dog, I've not focused on the bread. That bread, that substance, that staple diet, the thing that she really needs, the thing that would keep her going, that bread. You know where else it says, Jesus says in another point, he says, I am the bread of life. As we took this morning, that bread that we ate, my body broken for you. And he takes the bread. Then, and right now he's saying, hey, the dogs don't deserve the bread. And we think about the dog, but we don't think about the bread. The bread that is what you need. Because if Jesus is the bread, that is what we need. If you need deliverance, hey, there's deliverance in the bread. You need healing, hey, there's healing in the bread. There's provision you need. You know where that is? It's in the bread. You need a relationship restored. Do you know where that is? It's in the bread. Because in Jesus, there is everything that we ever need. And so, but Jesus says to her, hey, it's not right. It's not right for me to take the children's bread and to give it to the dogs. This woman, she was desperate. She was not giving up. If I was this woman, well, I probably would never even got to that place. But she's like, I'm here, I've come this far, and I'm not giving up now. She says, yes, it is. Because even the dogs get the crumbs that fall. She says, hey, Jesus, all I need is a crumb. Because you know what? If there's deliverance in the bread, there's deliverance in the crumb. If there's healing in the bread, there's healing in the crumb. If there's freedom in the bread, there's freedom in the crumb. She said, I just need a crumb. I just need that little bit. That'll be enough for me. And I see this woman, I don't see her as a dog, but if she was a dog, I think there's a few different types of dog. Some sit quietly, don't they, underneath the table, waiting for the crumbs to fall. Some dogs jump up onto their master's lap and get it a lot sooner. Some dogs get fed off the fork by their owners. This woman, she's bold. She's brave. If she is a dog, she is the dog that is sat in the master's lap, grabbing the bread from the master's hand. She says, hey, I'm going to cross a line because I'm desperate. I am desperate. And then Jesus turns to her and he says, woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And at that very moment, her daughter is healed. Her daughter was healed. Why? Because she did not give up. She chased down what she needed. He says, your faith is greater than the Jewish people. Your faith as a dog is greater than the faith of the children. The woman got the miracle today because she was bold. Her faith was great. And she was ready to accept the crumb. Hey, why don't the band come up? That woman got the bread. There's one more thing I just want to know. The woman got the bread. The woman got the crumb. But it changed her daughter's life. And I believe as a church, let me just speak into the church here. What we're doing today, it will affect us, but it will affect the next generations. It will affect the future. I don't want to just do it for this generation, but I want to be bold enough. I want to be brave enough. I want to have faith that crosses a line that changes the next generation as well. And there's one more thing that I want us to note. You know that woman who Jesus called a dog? Under the old covenant, she was a dog. But we don't live under the old covenant anymore. We live under the new covenant, where Jesus died for us, for all people, for the whole world. And today, it doesn't matter where you were born. It doesn't matter how you were raised, your social status, whether you've been in prison, whether you're held down by addictions, whether you're viewing this sin that's so big in your life, you're covered. We become children of God. So even when the crumb is enough, you're entitled to the bread. You're entitled to the bread today. But she had to ask, and she had to take, and she had to eat. And if we're going to be people that move from here to here, if we're going to be a church that goes from here to here, we're going to cross that line that looks quite hard, that line that looks impossible. We're going to have to ask. And just before we sing our final song, why don't we do that? Why don't we ask? Maybe there's something in your life right now that God's just putting on your heart, that line that you need to cross, that place from there to there. Say, God, give me you. Give me you today, that bread that I am now entitled to as your child, as your son, as your daughter, someone covered by the covenant. And Lord, right now you see the needs across this room and those watching online as well. God, I pray that you provide. Let us know and let us feel and let us have and eat that bread. Let us have you today. Ask. Amen.